Hyper beats. Hyper beats. Hyper beats. Hyper beats. Titan beats.
All right, what is going on, folks? This is the boys here from across the plane. And welcome to our Week 8 Fantasy Football Ranking Show. My name is Will. You can find me on Instagram at MPLS_outdoors. Above me here is...
Hey, I'm Jake the Rookie, and we're back with our Week 8 ranking show for fantasy football. And all these rankings are done in half-point PPR format for
absolutely.
anyone who's wondering.
This is obviously recorded Thursday afternoon before the Thursday night game. We have Atlanta and Carolina playing. A lot of fantasy relevant players playing in there tonight, so we're all hoping for a high-scoring game there. Hope you guys got a dub in Week 8. Hope you guys started Tyler Lockett. Hope you guys, there are a lot of big players. Hope you guys didn't start like a Cam Newton. We had Cam Newton ranked in the top 12. He put up quite the dud.
Yeah, he did. No one thought he was going to be that bad.
That bad, yeah. Negative points, actually.
Or else he would have not have started. But, we can't get him all right. He has rushing upside, but obviously that didn't get him back in our rankings this week.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's obviously got the Cardinals, the Washington football team, the Jaguars, and the Texans on a bye. So no Kyler Murray, no Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, and all those players on those offenses. So another tough week for injuries, another tough week for buys, and just got to keep rolling with the punches. So let's get right into the quarterback rankings.
Indeed.
And number 1, Patrick Mahomes. It is a favorable matchup versus the Jets. They had a really interesting week last week where Patrick Mahomes didn't do too well, but their defense, they got a defensive touchdown, they got a special teams touchdown, and they didn't really need too much from the offense. They did enough, but I think Patrick Mahomes comes out and has a big game.
Exactly. I think as long as he's able to have the attempts, I think he'll have a good fantasy game. But fantasy-wise, I think last week was his worst performance so far. So
yeah, I think we can expect a bounce-back game there. Russell Wilson had a good fantasy game-wise, but I think he'll be knocking himself for his performance last week against Arizona. And I think we can expect him to come back and have a really efficient game. And obviously, he's going to be top 3 or 4 every single week.
Agreed. I think we should see a great game again, and hopefully he doesn't throw those picks. Hopefully the offense doesn't get those holding penalties, and we see a different result for Seattle.
Yeah, we got Aaron Rodgers up at number 3. He played a great game last week.
Yeah,
playing at home against Minnesota. That is such a favorable matchup. It's got his receivers, Devontae Adams, obviously had a monster game last week. Hope you guys, obviously, if you had him, you started him. And you probably got to win if you started him. But, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, I think we can expect at least 3 touchdowns from him.
I agree, and I think Devontae Adams will have another huge game. We'll get onto that later. But as far as quarterbacks go, Aaron Rodgers is a safe start this week.
Absolutely. Number 4, we have Josh Allen, and I'm going to be honest, he's had a couple of down weeks. This is probably going to be the last week I have him ranked this high. I still think he has a lot of rushing upside. But again, I think he's got good targets. But this might be the last. If he doesn't perform this week, I don't see me putting him in the top 5 again going forward.
Agreed. It's a tough matchup, but I think it's really time to prove it for Josh Allen. He's been losing some respect.
Yeah, absolutely. He's had some tough matchups, but he did not play too well during those tough matchups. So next up, this is the highest he's been ranked all season. We were high. We had him ranked 7 last week. Justin Herbert. We were super high on him. He put up a huge game. I believe he had 34 fantasy points.
I think it was 38. But
He had a
maybe
monster game.
it
And
was
again, if you watched our Week 7 fantasy preview, we told you that Justin Herbert was owned in only 52% of leagues. We told you to go out and pick him up if you were in those 48% of leagues, and we had him ranked in our top 10. And there you go. He's got a big arm. He's got a lot of weapons. I mean, he looks really good. The Chargers made a great pick with Justin Herbert.
I agree. And Keenan Allen is a mismatch, and he's getting him the ball. And it's looking it's a good situation for a rookie quarterback. Better than Bengals, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then next we have Lamar Jackson at 6. Expect him to have his normal Lamar Jackson rushing upside. And
Sorry, we have a. Let's see here. Keep talking.
Keep talking. All right. And then we got Lamar Jackson has a tough matchup against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's been really tough defensively, but it's Lamar Jackson, so he obviously cracks top 10. Next we have Carson Wentz, who's been sneakily having better and better fantasy performances. May not be your favorite quarterback if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fans. I heard he gets some boos over there.
No, he definitely turns the ball over a lot.
Yep, almost 2 turnovers a game, but he has rushing upside, especially in the red zone.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's against Dallas, and Dallas just traded Everson Griffin. They cut Dontari Poe, so they lost an edge rusher, they lost a tackle, and Dallas is. I mean, everyone's putting up at least 30 points on Dallas, and I think Carson Wentz is going to have at least 3 touchdowns, maybe 2 throwing and 1 on the ground, and I think he has really high upside this game. Again, it's against Dallas, so I'm high on the Eagles this week.
Yeah, I think it will be a terrific matchup for that. It's a bad defense, very bad defense.
Yeah, historically bad defense, and they got even worse. So we'll see how. It's not good over there.
Agreed.
Let's see, number 8, Tom Brady. His favorite target, Chris Godwin, broke his finger and is out, but it looks like he's building rapport again with Gronkowski. And Scotty Miller had a big game. And that offense, that whole team is just rolling. Their defense is playing about as good as any other team in the league. And he has so many weapons to throw to.
Yeah, and newly acquired Antonio Brown.
He'll get him week 9.
Get him week 9.
So it looks like week 9. Looks like Chris Godwin might only miss 1 week, potentially. And so potentially week 9, we could see all of the targets. I mean, on that field. Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Scotty Miller, Gronkowski, Chris Godwin. And we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of targets to go around. I think Bruce Arians would prefer it that way and just be spreading the ball out and keep everyone on their toes. And I think it's going to be hard to predict fantasy-wise going forward, but I think it's going to be really good for Tom Brady.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can't ask for any more weapons.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're just, again, their defense is just rolling, giving them a good time of possession, and the run game opening things up for the passing game, and they're just rolling over there in Tampa Bay.
Agreed. They were made the ESPN Power Rankings #1 for somebody, one of the analysts. So, you know what? I couldn't find a flaw in that. They beat some good teams. They're rolling right now. They beat them. They're scoring. Doesn't look like
they're shutting teams down.
Exactly.
They held the Packers to 10 points the week before.
Yeah, the defense is clicking. But moving on, next we have Derek Carr, who is our stream of the week, I would say. At Cleveland. And if
absolutely.
You got Kyler Murray or Deshaun Watson and need a quarterback to pick up, I would go look at Derek Carr to be my first streaming option.
Yeah, and it's a really favorable matchup against Cleveland. That offense they're playing very well. I mean, they've gotten their targets, but I mean they have a lot of targets, and Nelson Aguilar and Henry Ruggs on the outside really open things up, and Darren Waller over the middle. Another thing, Derek Carr only has 2 interceptions. He does 2 interceptions going into this game, so I think he's got a pretty safe floor. And he has some decent upside this week. So this is the highest we have him ranked, and I feel good about him going in, scoring a lot going at Cleveland.
I do too. The matchup's good. Cleveland's given up a lot of points through the air, especially. And yeah, Derek Carr's having statistically his best season he's ever had. So I look for that to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a safe floor of at least a couple of touchdowns. Next up, Ryan Tannehill. I was really bummed to see Steven Gostowski miss that kick because he started. The whole offense was just struggling the entire first half. Derrick Henry, everyone was just struggling that first half, and then they really just got it clicking the second half, and everyone started scoring touchdowns, and they marched down the field, down 3 to tie the game to send it to overtime, and Steven Gostowski missed it, but that does not mean Ryan Tannehill is not a must start when he is healthy, or obviously when he's healthy. When they're playing, I still think it is a great matchup at Cincy, and I expect to see some points again.
Yeah, I put him as a start against Cincy. I expect that game to be decently high scoring, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's had a lot of games with multi touchdowns. You know, he's had 2 games with 4 touchdowns. Week 5 he had 3 touchdowns. I mean, Pittsburgh he had 2 touchdowns, and I thought he played pretty well. So he'll have some. I think they're gonna want to come in and put a lot of points on the Bengals this week.
Yeah,
we're pretty high on the Titans this week, as you'll see in our rankings going forward.
Yeah. And then we got Matt Ryan next, playing tonight on Thursday at Carolina. Expect him to have a good game. Him and Teddy will have a division duel. We'll see. It's the first time they're playing Carolina. I think they faced off last year in New Orleans, Atlanta, but
yeah, only had 1 touchdown last week. Obviously, Todd Gurley got the 2 touchdowns. But again, they're throwing the ball 40 times a game, and they have the weapons, and it is a really favorable matchup against Carolina.
Yeah, and Matt Ryan's probably a start almost any week.
Especially, yeah, I think as long as the thing is, if Julio Jones is playing, you start him.
I agree. I was like, as long as the team is healthy, I think Matt Ryan just has so much to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, Joe Burrow. He also had a monster game last week.
Yeah, he did. It didn't result in a win, but it's just Cincinnati football for you.
Yep. I mean, that's what it's going to be for a little bit. They're 1-5-1. He threw the ball 47 times against Cleveland. Had 3 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. So he has that upside. Tennessee is a defense that you can definitely score against, and I think you can expect to see another 3 touchdowns out of him.
Yeah, agreed. Let's go. Start Joe Burrow if you're streaming.
Start Joe Burrow. Yeah, folks. And again, if any of you guys have any trade questions, any lineup questions, make sure you hit us with that in the chat. We are happy to help out with your lineups because I know it is always tough, especially this juncture in the season. You want to make the right calls.
Yeah, and if you're not watching live, comments as well. We'll respond.
Absolutely.
If you got anything to do.
Next up was our number 2 streaming quarterback of the week, and that was Teddy Bridgewater. And again, he's got a pretty safe floor against those safe matchups. He plays well against favorable matchups, and again, it's one of those things where it's Atlanta. You score points against Atlanta.
Yeah, you're gonna exactly safe play. Next is Jimmy G, which I think could have a sneaky good game against Seattle.
Yeah,
It's just like it's another matchup where it's just the terrible at defending in the pass. Terrible.
yeah, and obviously Debo Samuel's got hurt. He didn't play too well against New England, but again, Seattle's a much more favorable matchup. He had 3 touchdowns the week before against the Rams, and again, I think it could be a really sneaky play.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Drew Brees comes in at 15, and he has not been the fantasy quarterback that we've known him as. And I have him at 15, and he only has one game.
If he gets Michael Thomas back, it might improve Drew Brees.
Exactly. That's what I have him. I have him ranked right now, but again, even with Michael Thomas right now, I think they're just it's against Chicago. Chicago, it's always a low scoring game. Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray, they love that running game, and he's only had one game where he's thrown for over 2 touchdowns. So I think we just got to temper expectations this season with Drew Brees, and that's not an easy matchup playing at Soldier Field. Especially we know Drew Brees on the road in the cold.
Yep, exactly. Temper expectations for Drew Brees. Probably try to find a better start, someone higher on our rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. I bet again, see if Derek Carr, Teddy Bridgewater, I think are way more upset than Drew Brees. Next up, we got Baker Mayfield,
who I personally have one higher than Drew Brees.
Yeah, so. I'm not ready to do that quite yet.
I just think he's going to be more high-scoring game.
Yeah, it could be, but I think we see a whole lot of Kareem Hunt. We might even see a little bit of Dearness Johnson, maybe. I think that's a team that you can definitely run on. Not that you can't throw on them, but they just lost Odell. And again, I'm not saying Baker didn't play fantastic, but he hasn't played well.
No, yeah.
Up until.
And even in the last game, it was up until Odell got injured. He was not playing.
So, I got to see it one more week. I think Drew Brees might be a little bit safer play. I agree. Baker Mayfield has more upside though, so I agree they could be pretty interchangeable. I don't know. If I had Drew Brees, it'd be tough. But again, temper expectations. Next up, we got Ben Roethlisberger. And again, another tough matchup going at Baltimore. He has a lot of weapons, but Baltimore is a dangerous team. They just added Yannick Ngakoue, great pass rusher. They're just such a good defense, and it's just again another thing like just temper expectations if you got Ben Roethlisberger and try to get a guy with more upside.
Yeah, these last 3 guys, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford, Kirk Cousins, you don't want to start them, but you know what? We figured let's just make it top 20 for quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think out of all those, we haven't ranked it. Jared Goff, Matt Stafford has not played well, and he hasn't put up good fantasy numbers against we expected. We were pretty high on him last week against Atlanta, and he didn't put up too well. So I don't know how we can expect him to do that against Indianapolis. So, again, Jared Goff, I think, has some good upside, but that might just be a defensive game. We'll see what happens with Tua. They might not need Jared Goff to be throwing the football too much there.
Yeah, and Tua, watch him, see what he does. I'm not starting him yet.
I'm adding him in a 12-man league. I don't know if I'm adding him in a 10-man league yet. I'm pretty. Again, he could.
Add him maybe if you got
if you got the bench space,
Rodgers or Tom Brady or somebody who doesn't have a bye yet. Maybe add him, but I don't know.
Yeah, I just temper expectations. Maybe we see. Ryan Tannehill was putting up pretty good fantasy numbers. He was a pretty consistent top 12 play. Maybe we see Tua get to that. We'll see how they use him. He might have good rushing upside.
We'll have to see, yeah.
But again,
he could be better than...
If you're in a 10 or a 12-man league, I think you can maybe add him, but you can probably do a lot better.
Yep. So moving on from quarterbacks, running backs.
Let's do the running backs. All right, and we are high on the Packers players this week. We think there's going to be a lot of points scored against the Minnesota Vikings, which puts Aaron Jones number one. I think it looks like he's trending towards playing. Obviously, Jamal Williams is a must start, but I think it looks like Aaron Jones is going to play. He traveled with the team last week and was a game time decision. So again, he's absolute must start if he's on the field.
Absolutely. He's involved in the passing game. He's consistent. He's playing the Vikings. I like him this week. And we got Derrick Henry at number 2.
It's a great matchup against Cincy. I mean, they just give Derrick Henry the ball. He's a guaranteed 20 plus touches a game. He's an absolute monster, and he's probably just going to eat on that Cincy defense. And I don't. It's hard to predict 30 plus point games, but this might be a big Derrick Henry week.
I'm hoping so. I got Derrick Henry on my team, and you know what? It's just volume's not a problem with Derrick Henry. It's just, are they gonna stack the box, and is he gonna get his points, or is he gonna just?
And having AJ Brown is definitely gonna open things up for Derrick Henry a little bit more.
Yep, since he's average against the run, so they're not terrible, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, they just traded away Carlos Dunlap to the Seahawks, so Seahawks got a nice defensive edge rusher there, and that only is going to help Derrick Henry. Next up, we got Dalvin Cook. Obviously, he's a must start every time he touches the field. He's trending towards playing. We had the bye. I'm hoping for good things out of this Vikings team. Hopefully, at least we can kind of get our offense rolling. But again, Dalvin Cook must start absolutely every week.
Hold on, we got a question.
Should I drop? There you go.
I mean, yeah.
Should I drop Tyler Higbee? I have Waller and Burton. If you need, I always say, who are you picking up?
I just think yes at this point if you have Waller.
Yeah. I mean, it's
unless you play 2 tight ends. I don't know how your scoring is or your league set up.
Darren Waller already had the bye, and you're not gonna. I mean,
I would not start Waller.
Yeah, and again, if you want the insurance policy, I don't know. It's tough to call who you want as an insurance policy. Again, if you lose Darren Waller, he's probably a big part of your offense.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and again, interested to know who you're looking at picking up, though.
There's probably somebody better on the waivers that I would recommend over Higbee or Burton.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, just depends. How your scoring is, you play 2 tight ends, but yeah, we like Waller better than all of them. Hands down. Moving on to our next on our list, Kamara.
Yeah, and I think they're going to rely on him heavily this week. It's a tough matchup, but again, it's Alvin Kamara. I think he's just going to be peppered with targets. This is half-point PPR scoring. Could probably expect to see like 7 or 8 catches out of him this week.
Yeah, I agree. It's just I think if we're ranking based on PPR, so if you're playing standard, maybe temper expectations a little bit, but I still think he's going to get in the end zone through the air.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, we got Kareem Hunt, and I think he hasn't had the huge monster games that we've been expecting. I think he's played very well. He had 17.7 points last week, but I think this is the week that he gets above your 20 points threshold, and we see that huge monster game. He has such a safe floor, and Las Vegas, the Raiders have been terrible against the run. They've been one of the worst teams in the league. and expect to see. I think this is the week that we see Kareem Hunt, going over 20 points solo.
For sure, for sure. I actually, yeah, like that call a lot. I think he's gonna be productive in the passing game as well as the run game, and Las Vegas has just not been good at stopping their run.
Yep. All right,
We
next
got
up, Josh
Josh
Jacobs.
Jacobs.
Yeah, and I benched Josh Jacobs last week. So really quick before we get into Josh Jacobs, we got another. This is my starting lineup. No bye week, people. Watson, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Miles Sanders, Darren Waller, AJ Brown. So it doesn't affect me. Yeah, drop Tyler Higbee. You got AJ
Yeah.
Brown as your flex, and Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, and Kareem Hunt, and Miles Sanders, and Deshaun Watson. You're
Yeah,
pretty
so
set there.
you need a quarterback this week, so you can drop Higby for a quarterback, or you can find somebody else maybe on our rankings if you continue to watch that you like that's maybe on your waiver wire.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, Josh Jacobs had a dud of a game last week. They had the offensive Trent Brown, offensive lineman, was out due to COVID, and I think we can expect a bounce back game. Cleveland's definitely a defense you can run the ball on. They lost the lead. Tampa Bay got out to an early lead and they had to resort to throwing the football. So I think we see a nice bounce back week from Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I would hope so, but I also agree. If he doesn't perform, I would be surprised because I think it's going to be a way closer game.
Backup is Mayfield. Yeah, we got Mayfield as a decent play this week, especially if you're in a 12-man league and need a bye week play. That's very good. You don't want to have to start Jalen Hurts or Ben DiNucci,
All right, and then continuing on, Zeke is not performed well.
Nope, he's gotten the volume. He's had some issues fumbling, but yeah, he's not performed well.
And it looks as if Dallas is in tank mode. Dallas in tank mode. Thanks,
and we
alligator.
appreciate it. Yeah,
Yeah,
Dallas in tank mode.
I don't like any Dallas players a lot, but I feel like they all have decent floors,
Yeah,
but not ceilings because they're not win.
It's going to be tough this week. We'll see if we get Ben DiNucci or Andy Dalton. But it's going to be tough this week. I think this is, again, I need to see it this week. Otherwise, he might fall down the rankings a little bit, especially once we get some running backs. Once McCaffrey and Nick Chubb take the field again, he's going to be slipping down the rankings, I think, if he does not perform this week.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we got Mike Davis, and this looks like it's it for us Mike Davis owners. He had a tough week last week. New Orleans is a pretty good team against the run. I think we expect to see a good one last hoorah.
Yeah, against Atlanta, I feel like this is the sending off for Mike Davis. Christian McCaffrey coming back. It just seems like he might just be a handcuff. Maybe he'll be a flex option. We'll have to see.
Maybe he'll still get some passing work. I mean, he has a nice floor because of the passing work. He had 5 catches last week, and I think he'll again be involved in the passing game this week. So definitely a safe play. Definitely a guy you want in your lineup this week for one last hoorah of Mike Davis.
Yeah. Send him off in your lineup. Don't let his last productive game be on your bench.
That's right. Next up, Jonathan Taylor. And I really hope he gets a bunch of volume this week. I think he does. I think Jonathan Taylor's owners have been wanting a little bit more volume. But I think this is the week we get it. Detroit's definitely a team you can run the football against. And Indy does not have that good of a passing game.
No. Yep. Agreed with everything you said there. I'm starting him this week. I'm confident.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and I think he can definitely get some. He'll get some goal line work. Next up, we got James Conner at Baltimore. It's a tough matchup. Uh, I don't know if any of you guys were watching the game last week. James Conner had he had like 3 opportunities that were taken away, like where he should have scored. So I think James Conner he gets a lot of volume. There's so many targets on that offense that it always is going to allow. They always like to have 3 receivers. Ebron's a good tight end, so it allows James Conner to work, and he's definitely been performing pretty well this season.
Yeah.
He's had 20 carries 2 weeks in a row. He had 5 targets last week, so didn't get the touchdown last week. But again, he got so close, and he had scored a touchdown 4 weeks in a row going into that. So James Conner, a super safe play there at number 10.
Yep. Is the volume every week. Um, he hasn't had a week really besides games where he's taken out early because of injury, where he doesn't get volume. So very safe. Ronald Jones,
Yeah,
NYG.
Ronald Jones.
I
It's a great matchup.
I think he could outperform his rank at 11. I
Okay,
could see 20 plus points.
so I know they got out ahead really early last week, but Ronald Jones played 43% of the snaps last week, where Leonard Fournette played 46% of the snaps. Leonard Fournette had 7 targets, 6 catches to Ronald Jones, 2 targets and 1 reception. And uh, Leonard Fournette saw 11 carries, averaging 4.5 yards a carry, and Ronald Jones saw 13 carries, averaging 2.6 yards a carry. I'm still high on Ronald Jones, as you can see based on the ranking, but I think going forward, we might see more of Leonard Fournette. Again, he saw a higher snap count. Uh, Ronald Jones has yet to. I mean, they're a great team, and he's a great running back. Don't get me wrong, but I think we start to see more of Leonard Fournette going forward.
Yeah, it's something to keep an eye on for sure. I don't have Ronald Jones on any teams, but I think it's just I like Tom Brady's running backs normally just for passing work. I thought Ronald Jones was going to be the guy getting the passing work, but if it's Fournette, I guess.
Yeah,
So
and again, it might switch up every week because Leonard Fournette was out, but week 4 Ronald Jones saw 9 targets. But again, that is something to take note that Leonard Fournette played more snaps, averaged more per carry, still saw and saw 7 targets for 6 catches. That's big. So keep an eye on that. But again, Ronald Jones, a safe play there against the Giants. They're definitely a defense you can expect to see some points scored on them. Especially they're going to get out ahead early. They're probably going to run the football. I think we see some turnovers from Danny Dimes, which is going to allow Ronald Jones and those running backs to work.
yes, sir, yes, sir. And then we got Todd Gurley next at Carolina, plays tonight.
Fell into the end
Uh,
zone, baby.
Fell into the end zone. He didn't mean to, but it was good for his fantasy
Yeah,
performance.
he's got a really safe floor. I mean, he isn't that efficient, but he gets some passing work. He gets a lot of carries and he gets a lot of goal line work. So again, he's a safe play. Carolina last time he averaged 8 yards a carry. That was his best game of the season. Had like 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. So
Yeah,
Carolina's
he had
definitely a defense you can run against.
yeah, you have over 100 yards only against Carolina, so I think he could have maybe not over 100 yards again, but I still think he gets good work
Yeah, and
load.
again, the touchdown that it's such a high touchdown upside that it's going to keep him a pretty tough play, especially with all the injuries at running backs, the buys. It's tough, for running backs this year.
Certainly.
Next up, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he's really
Yeah.
efficient. But Jake and I were talking about this going into the show that You know, Le'Veon Bell revenge game. Watch out. We've got Le'Veon Bell at 21. I definitely think he's a player to look out to outperform that 21 ranking.
Yeah, he could. It, I think he might be out for blood in this one. We'll see.
Yeah. Obviously, it was a really weird game for the Chiefs, so I don't think we got kind of the full picture of what we're gonna see with Le'Veon Bell. Um, he was not involved in the passing game, but again, they got out to such an early lead. They had a touchdowns from a defense, special teams. So he saw 6 carries for
39
39
yards.
yards, 6.5 yards a carry. Didn't see any targets, but I would bet money that Le'Veon Bell is involved in the passing game this week.
I think he's involved in the game this week.
Yeah, but again, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's so efficient, and again, it's the Chiefs' offense. He's still going to be a nice play going forward. And again, last week was weird. He only saw 8 carries, but the week before he saw 26. But again, they just got out to such an early lead. It's hard to tell based on that one game what's it going to be like going forward with the running backs.
Agreed. I think one of them gets 100 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
I don't know which one, but one of them.
Yeah, but I think they're both nice plays this week, and rest of the season, I think they're going to be an offense that can definitely support 2 fantasy relevant running backs.
Yep.
All right. Next up, we'll go to Myles Gaskin, and I think Myles Gaskin is going to get a nice workload with Tua. Actually, obviously this is a game that's everyone's going to be paying attention to, but I think we can expect to see a lot of Myles Gaskin. He saw 18 carries last week. He's been involved in the passing game, and I think we're going to see a lot of checkdowns to him.
Yeah, he was on the bye last week, but before that, he's been the most efficient Dolphins running back and looks to continue to get workload.
Yeah, and it is a little frustrating because he only had the 1 touchdown, and they do have Jordan Howard and Matt Breida, but I think Myles Gaskin's a really nice play, and I think that safe passing floor is going to keep him super relevant this week, and I think he might get more looks with Tua than Ryan Fitzpatrick.
True. And then we got Boston Scott. Looks like Miles Sanders might be out again. We'll have to see how the practice reports come in through the rest of the week. But right now, we do not have him ranked because of that. And Boston Scott against Dallas, I think, is a very safe play against a terrible defense.
Yeah, he saw 12 carries last week, 5 targets. Got the game-winning touchdown, obviously. And again, it's a safe floor where he's probably going to get, you can expect to see like 15 touches out of him. It's going to be involved in the passing game. And it's against Dallas. So I think he can definitely, the Eagles are probably going to put up points. It's just a matter of who's going to be reaping the benefits of that,
Yeah, all these guys, 14 to 22, those are what I'd consider RB2s. And they're, like you said, just you can expect a decent floor and workload from all these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, we got Melvin Gordon. Philip Lindsay has a questionable designation. He always has trouble staying on the field. And he's a safe floor for a nice workload. Against Kansas, he had 17 carries, got the touchdown, 4 targets. And, he's seeing the larger snap percentage over Philip Lindsay. And it's, the Chargers are definitely a defense you could run the ball on. And again, it's a really safe floor for Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, for sure.
David Montgomery. And, this is when we're getting to the territory where he's kind of touchdown dependent. He gets a lot of volume, though. But, again, his involvement in the passing game has kept him pretty relevant. But has not had the touchdowns that we want. Only had 2 touchdowns on the year, one on the ground, one through the air. Last week had 14 carries for 48 yards, and it's just that offense is horrible.
Yeah, not good. He's got more workload than a lot of guys. He's getting the ball a lot, but the offense is not creating big plays for him. So it's safe floor because of volume, but
Yeah, they're playing
not
outside.
high,
Keep an eye on the weather, but
not a high ceiling.
yeah, and again, it's the passing work that keeps him at that high ranking. Justin Jackson, again, I'll say the same thing. The passing work keeps him relevant, is going to keep him there, and we're at that point now where it's getting tough. But I think Justin Jackson, you can still throw him out there and expect to see decent RB2 flex numbers.
Yep. And then Darrell Henderson, same thing. He's been getting the most volume out of the backfield. So he's Malcolm Brown's probably seen more passing work, I think, but Darrell Henderson is getting the carries and efficient with them.
Yeah, and it's a favorable matchup there for Darrell Henderson against Miami last week. He saw 15 carries still, and that's going to keep him relevant. Again, if a running back is getting 15 touches consistently at this point in the season, you're going to find a way to start him.
Yep, especially with all the injuries and bye weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And next up, we have DeAndre Swift. And, I really hope the Lions don't do what they've done in the past, and I really just hope they use DeAndre Swift. I really don't want Adrian Peterson to see a whole lot of the work going forward. I mean, DeAndre Swift only had 9 carries, but he's so efficient when he touches the football. I think they're going to need to use him if they're going to want to score points against this tough Colts defense. But again, it's the Lions, so it's tough because their usage is never crazy high.
Yeah, I think they're gonna roll with him. He's the rookie. Maybe we'll see like a good rookie year like we did for Kerryon Johnson. Then they'll do some Lion stuff next year with him.
Yeah, I mean, last week 45% was the highest snap count he's seen so far. So
I think he's taking over.
yeah, I think we hope to see him at that over 50% mark. But again, I think he's so talented, and I think they do look to his way more. He's had now 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. They were using him in the red zone, so I think we can expect a decent week out of DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, and then next is Le'Veon Bell. Already touched on that. Then we have Carlos Hyde, who looks to be starting for the injured Chris Carson.
Yeah, it looks like Chris Carson's not going to play. He has that foot injury. Obviously, something to monitor going forward, as we always say, monitor everything. It's a tough matchup against San Francisco. We talked about Carlos Hyde on the waiver wire show. But again, he's going to see a decent workload. He had 15 carries last week, 4 targets for 3 catches, and he's going to get red zone work. Seattle's committed to running the football. He'll have a nice floor this week, I think.
Yeah. And then we got Gio Bernard also up there because of injury. Joe Mixon looks like he might not play.
Yeah, and again, if Joe Mixon plays, throw him out there. Temper expectations for Joe Mixon if he does play, but I think as of right now, we've obviously ranked this as Joe Mixon isn't playing. It looks like he's trending towards not, but obviously keep an eye out on that.
Yep. And Joshua Kelly, who is Justin Jackson's backfield partner. He looked to be, you were more excited about him at the beginning of the year, and he seemed to have fallen off or maybe plateaued.
He really hasn't been too efficient. I mean, been averaging about 2.5 yards a carry the last 2 games. He had 12 carries. He had 5 catches. So again, he gets involved in the passing game. I think that's going to keep him decently relevant. Uh,
Mhm.
I really like that Chargers offense, and
Yeah.
again, you're kind of hoping for a touchdown, but we'll see.
True.
All right, next up, Jermichael Hasty.
Yeah,
And
and Jerry McKinnon. We'll get them both out the way.
yeah, we'll get them both out the way. Jarek McKinnon, obviously, if you started him last week, I hope you didn't. Got you negative
Yeah.
points. San
We
Francisco's
had him in
really
the.
creative with the way they use their
Sorry.
running backs.
Yeah, I hope you started Jeff Wilson last week. He did very good. But like you said, San Francisco and their running backs, I'm confused. I don't want nothing to do with it. That's why
So
they're 25. They're RB2s,
yeah, it's
but I don't
again.
know which one's gonna have a good game and which one isn't. But I think one of those is gonna be a good game and one of them isn't.
Yeah, it's tough. Because Jeff Wilson obviously went to IR there. Um, but it's really hard to predict what a player like Jermichael Hasty is going to get because he saw like 13 carries last week, but we could just not totally not see that, totally see him disappear too. So
I don't know. So far, he's averaged over 4 yards a carry when he has gotten the ball. Has 2 catches over the years, so is not really involved in the passing game. But if he gets volume, I could see him being potentially. We'll have to see how they utilize him. Something to monitor. I'm not too excited to start him, but this could be the week where you start him on a whim, and you know what? He wins you your matchup. So
yeah, I mean I think he does have a lot of upside, but again,
that's why he's higher than Jarek McKinnon.
yeah, I
That's
think
why he's
definitely has a lot more upside than Jarek McKinnon. So we'll skip over Jarek McKinnon. We'll get to Devin Singletary. What a dud from the Buffalo Bills. Uh, didn't score a touchdown against the Jets. Kicked 6 field goals. They scraped out a win. Devin Singletary only saw 8 carries. He had 5 targets, but 54% of the snaps was his lowest snap count all season. It's a tough matchup, but again, once you're getting down into this 27, it's getting really tough for running backs, and he's definitely a player that's disappointed going into the season.
Yeah, and they play New England coming off a loss, and I think New England's going to tighten up defensively and not going to allow easy. It's not going to be. I I just don't like Singletary as you play him if you need to. That's how I feel.
Yeah, if you really need to, if you're in a deeper league dealing with buys, but I'm trying to. There's a lot of players that have a lot higher upside than Devin Singletary. Uh, Leonard Fournette, we talked about Leonard Fournette, a situation to keep an eye on. Saw a little bit more work in a kind of a blowout game against the Raiders, but he saw more higher snap percentage, was more efficient running the football, and he saw 7 targets last week. So I think he could be a decent play this week. It's a nice matchup against the Giants. We might see that same situation where they just get out ahead early, and then we see a decent game from both Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, and then I guess the last name I even feel like kind of mentioning is I don't feel like any of these other guys I would want to start below him would be Jamal Williams. And I think even as a RB2, if Aaron Jones plays, I think he still could perform just
Yeah.
against the Vikings. And if Aaron Jones doesn't play, he moves up to around number 10 for me, Jamal Williams.
Yeah, again, it looks like Aaron Jones is trending towards playing, but even if he does play, I think he gets the bulk of the work. But Jamal Williams will still get more work than usual. He might be slightly limited, Aaron Jones that is, and he's got a safe passing floor. He's super talented. Green Bay likes to shake things up, and it's just a really bad defense there in Minnesota, and they're playing at home. It's just a great matchup there, and I think they're going to lean on both the running backs.
Yeah. And I don't know. Do you want to just you see 30 through 40? Do you want to touch on anybody else or?
Honestly, if you maybe LaMichael Pirine might be the guy out of all those that I want to start.
That's the upside play for Will. I'd
Yeah,
say my upside play would be uh, that same play right there. Malcolm Brown, if I really needed to.
yeah, it looks he
But
got 11 carries. He played more snaps than Frank Gore, so we have him ranked a little higher. But they're playing Kansas City, so I don't know. I don't want to be starting any of those guys. So
nope,
ideally, you're going 30 or higher, or 29 or higher, or you're
agreed.
starting a receiver at flex.
Agreed.
Which
Receivers are way deeper this year.
Yeah, so let's get into the receivers. Like you're saying, it is way deeper. Obviously, Odell Beckham was injured last week, but Devontae Adams came in at number 2 last week, scoring like 38 points. Obviously, Tyler Lockett was the number 1 scoring, but he's just a target monster. He is so talented, and I mean, how could he not be number 1 this week?
Yeah, you've heard us talk about how bad the Vikings defense is, but Devontae Adams is a Vikings killer, has always been, always will be, just as
Yeah,
Adam Thielen is a Packer killer. So it's just I expect both to have big games. Devontae Adams to have a better game, so that's why we got him number 1.
yeah. I mean, 13
Consensus.
catches, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns last week. I mean, when he's on the field, he's had 3 healthy games this year. He saw 17, 10, and 16 targets. So he's just a
Yeah,
monster.
absolutely.
And yeah, the Minnesota cornerbacks are just going to get destroyed on the outside there. So next up, Tyreek Hill, very favorable matchup against the Jets. Always Tyreek Hill has just massive upside. Could go for 30 any week, can break an 80-yard touchdown any play. So I think he could potentially break a big one this week against the Jets.
Agreed. He's a big play potential, got upside, and very consistent. Tyreek Hill is a must play every week.
Yep, next up, Keenan Allen. This is the highest he's been ranked, but Justin Herbert has just been on fire. We have Justin Herbert ranked all the way up at number 5, so therefore Keenan Allen's got to be up there too.
Yeah, I agree. And he's been seeing the majority of the targets and enjoying that.
Yeah, I mean, he's had double-digit targets now. Every game now when he's played with Justin Herbert, except for last week 5, where he obviously left the game with the back injury. Had 13 targets for 10 catches, 125 yards last week. And I think we can see a monster game from Keenan Allen. 100 yards and a touchdown potentially. A week closer to week 3 where he had 19 targets for 13 catches, 130 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, hopefully you see him get in the end zone this week. That would be big. I think he does. That's why I got him up at 3. And yeah, I expect 100 yards and a touchdown from Keenan Allen this week.
Yeah, Adam Thielen has been one of the safest plays in all of fantasy football. He's had a touchdown in all but 1 game against the Colts. I mean, he's had 7 touchdowns on the season. Green Bay is definitely a matchup that, again, like you say, he's the Packers killer.
Yeah.
13, well, let's see. He's had some great games against the Packers.
Yeah, 2018 was really good. Last year, not good against the Packers. They actually shut him down. But 2018.
Yeah.
Adam
Thielen's been having a great game. Again, obviously, a WR1 must start.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't shut him down like they did last year. But, I'm predicting 2018 Adam Thielen, not 2019 Adam Thielen.
Yeah. Next up, DK Metcalf, and obviously he kind of put up a dud last week, only had 2 catches for 23 yards. But if you watch that game, he obviously had the touchdown called back, and it's kind of one of those things with the Seattle receivers because you kind of want to have both of them in your top 5 or 6. Like we have them 5 and 6. Uh, you know, DK Metcalf had outscored Tyler Lockett the 2 weeks prior going into that game, and it's a tough matchup. And it's just one of those things where they're both going to be top 10 plays every week. One of them's going to get more of the target share, and you know, it could be DK Metcalf. I have him a little bit higher. I think he has higher touchdown upside than Tyler Lockett week to week.
I agree. He won't have Patrick Peterson covering him every game, and I expect a better week this week against San Francisco from him. And they're pretty much even. Like if you have either of them, you're starting them.
They're must
So
start
you don't.
WR1s every single week, obviously. With both have huge upside and a great floor there. Next up, we'll get to AJ Brown. He's been playing absolutely phenomenal football since coming back. Broke off that 73-yard touchdown, which he just looked. I mean, he's just a big, fast target for Ryan Tannehill, and they're definitely looking his way. So he's getting red zone targets, and yeah, it's a very favorable matchup at Cincy there.
Yeah, he's looked great, and I expect great things still for the rest of the season, like you said. And then Julio Jones is next. We're hoping he's healthy. Still battling his hammy. When he's on the field, uh, it looks like he's playing tonight. Doesn't have a designation.
Yeah,
And
I mean he's such a monster that again you have to play him when he's healthy. You drafted him, at worst the second round, and again, absolute monster when on the field. It's a great matchup against Carolina. Averages 90 in 15 games against the Panthers. He's averaging 93 yards a game. So you can expect him to play well against division matchups.
yep, yep. Julio Jones is in your lineup if he's in the Falcons lineup, no questions.
Robbie Anderson, he's obviously had just a phenomenal year. I think he's still the safer play than DJ Moore. Obviously, they both have huge upside, but he still saw 8 targets last week. It's a great game
Yeah,
against the Falcons, a great matchup against the Falcons, and I think we can both see them eat this week.
yeah. I'd like to see that. Obviously, Moore's gotten the touchdowns the last 2 weeks, but as far as targets go, Robbie Anderson, PPR must start.
Yep. Next up, we got Michael Thomas, and again, this is something to keep an eye on going forward. Like we always say here, Friday is the most important day for practice. We're not sure what's going to happen with Michael Thomas. If he practices in full on Friday, he'll probably slide up a couple slots. We'll see. Again, like we were saying about Drew Brees, it is a tough matchup playing outside at Chicago. We know about Drew Brees on the road there.
Yeah, it's it's not the same as home Drew Brees, and
Not
temper
the same as
expectations.
Drew Brees of the past either.
Exactly. So that's so far the Saints receivers have not been very fantasy productive, and you know what? Hopefully you've been winning without Michael Thomas in your lineup, and continue to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Calvin Ridley there at number 11. Again, it's a great matchup. He's still a definite must start when he's on the field. Julio Jones is coming back on the field, doesn't really affect him much at all.
No, I think it probably helps him, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, he's, again, must start pass catchers on the Falcons. It's still an offense that you can expect to see a lot of points. He still has high touchdown upside. Has had a touchdown the last 2 weeks in a row, which were the 2 games that Julio came back. So still seen 7 targets the last 2 games.
Number one receiver
Yeah.
So
And in
that's the
5 games against the Panthers, he's averaging 5 receptions and 101 yards a game. So again, a player where you can expect to see him put up points against those Carolina Panthers. Next up, we'll go to Stephon Diggs. We were super high on him last week, and we were all high on the Bills, and they just put up a dud. But Stephon Diggs still is a super safe play. He gets peppered with targets every single week. He still saw 11 targets last week.
Yeah,
And it's a tough matchup against the Patriots.
Exactly. But it's Stephon Diggs, so he's a must start.
Yeah, he's had at least six catches in all but one game this year. He's had 3 touchdowns. Having a great year there, so must start there, Stephon Diggs. Next up, we'll go to Kenny Golladay, and again, this is a really tough matchup against Indianapolis, so he's a little bit lower, but he's such a talented receiver where he's got a really safe floor every week.
Indeed. Just absolute monster. Makes a highlight reel catch every game, and he's the most dependable target on that team.
All right. Next up, we'll talk about Allen Robinson there. He comes in at number 14, and man, this needs to be it for Allen Robinson. You know, he needs to. Well, not so much Allen Robinson. Sorry, Nick Foles. Nick Foles had a horrible game last week. Allen Robinson only had 4 catches. Week before, he only had 5. Hasn't had a touchdown in 3 weeks. So Allen Robinson and not Allen Robinson, but yeah, Nick Foles and that Bears offense is just terrible.
Yeah. I would like to mention he's on concussion protocol, so he may not play. So just something to keep an eye on. So, but Allen Robinson, I think Mitchell Trubisky was better off with Mitch Trubisky, fantasy wise at least.
Yeah, his target share was a little bit higher there, but again, he's still really high in WR2, low in WR1, so he's a great play. Next up, we got DJ Moore, and he's started out a little slow, but he's just a very talented player. And he had 2 touchdowns last week.
Yeah, I'm starting him this week. It's give me a reason to watch this Thursday game. I haven't started him yet this year, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, DJ Moore has had exactly 93 yards in 3 games in a row.
There you go. So I think we can maybe expect 93 yards.
About exactly 93 yards, maybe.
And maybe a touchdown. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. All right, next up, we'll go to Justin Jefferson coming in at 16. The super talented rookie in Minnesota there.
Also starting him this week and excited about it. I think Packers know about him. He's not a secret, but I think he's just so good, and he's going to find a way to be productive.
Yeah, he's so talented. I think he still has the potential though to put up a dud. So but his upside is so high, and Green Bay is definitely a defense where you can score against. It's just Kirk Cousins. What'd you say?
I was just curious where.
Like week 5, we probably would have expected more if you're talking about a dud game. Only 3 catches for 23 yards against Seattle and no touchdowns.
So something like that. Okay. That's what you mean by dud?
That's a dud game.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's just again.
After
2 straight games of 100 yards, you probably expected him to put up a game against one of the lower defenses in the league, Seattle. And he did. So I'm just saying,
You're right.
upside, he could be the number 1 upside, but he could also be down at 30. So it's more up to Kirk Cousins.
Ceiling for sure.
Yeah. It's more up to Kirk Cousins, I really say. But again, I think he's so talented. But I am afraid, as a Vikings fan, that we lose that game like 45-10.
Yeah, I hope at least more than one touchdown. That's what I'm
Yeah.
hoping.
Yeah. So again, Justin Jefferson, super crazy high upside. Next up, we got Robert Woods, Bobby Trees.
And
He's a safe play. He has really high touchdown upside.
I don't think he's that safe this week. I don't like the matchup. I guess he's a safe in the fact where he's gonna get his targets.
He's going to get targets. He's seeing 90% of the offensive snaps. I guess it's hard to bench Robert Woods, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
it definitely.
it was a tough matchup last week against Chicago. Week before, he had 10 targets and a touchdown. And again, he's playing 90% of the snaps. But yeah, you can temper expectations. We've talked about these Rams receivers before. Temper expectations for both Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp going forward rest of the season.
Agreed.
Next up, we got Tyler Boyd. And again, we were talking about it. Probably 15 through 21 are pretty interchangeable for me.
Yeah.
Except for Amari Cooper, I think we'll have to see what happens, but I think they're all pretty interchangeable. But again, Tyler Boyd, super safe floor. AJ Green is coming up as a target for Joe Burrow, but again, they're throwing the ball a lot. He still saw 13 targets last week, and he's just a monster. So you should find a way to get him into your lineup. Coming in at number 18, like we've talked about. Receiver is just a deep position this year.
Yes, it is. And like you said, 15 through 21, pretty interchangeable. I like Fulgham a lot. I think he could be a riser. Amari Cooper, we got to see how he does.
He's had 7 catches the 2 weeks without Dak, so we will see. The Eagles are definitely a defense you can pass against, but yeah, it's just temper expectations for Amari rest of season. I'm trying to sell Amari Cooper. If I'm an Amari Cooper owner, I personally did sell Amari Cooper. Travis Fulgham coming in at 20. I think he has massive upside against Dallas. He's seen double-digit targets every single week that he has started. And again, it's just a super favorable matchup there.
Agreed. And then Mike Evans at 21. Looks like Chris Godwin is out. And Mike Evans gets more targets when Chris Godwin is out.
That's the formula. That is the formula. It looks like if Chris Godwin is out, you should play Mike Evans. If not, find something else. But yeah, it's against the Giants, and in 4 games against the Giants, he's averaged 7 catches, 131 yards, and a touchdown. So, again, it's Mike Evans, massive upside, favorable matchup. I think if you're gonna play Mike Evans, this is gonna be the week to do it.
Agreed.
Jamison Crowder, safe floor.
He's got a groin injury to monitor. Don't know if he's going to play or how much, or it's just something to keep an eye on. But he's pretty much the only safe jet I think that I would be comfortable starting week in, week out if he's healthy.
Yeah, I mean, they had he did not play week 7, but he's seen double-digit targets every single week. So super safe floor. I think they're going to be throwing the ball a lot there in Kansas City, and he does perform better with Darnold there on the field. So for what that's worth, again, safe play. Next up, Cooper Kupp. He was on the trading block if you had watched that show last week. We're not too high on Cooper Kupp rest of the season. Seems like they're kind of, it's just hard to predict that Rams offense this year.
Yeah, it seems. Sell him if you can. That's my take on Cooper Kupp.
Let's see. Brandon Ayuk. This is a player that I think has crazy high upside. He was on our we talked about him on the waiver wire show this week. Deebo Samuels is out yet again, and Brandon Ayuk against Seattle could have really high upside.
Yeah, they use him creatively, and I expect him to have a big game against Seattle, who's giving up some big plays.
Yeah, I mean last week against New England, he had 7 targets for 6 catches, 115 yards, and yeah, he's playing a high snap count. It's just a really favorable matchup. So look to him having some crazy high upside.
Agreed.
Next up, Deontay Johnson. And he's had some injuries. He's questionable going in. Looks like he might still see the field. He's still tentatively my favorite Tennessee wide receiver when playing, but it's tough. It's tough, There's 3 good receivers on that team.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I'd say he is my favorite when playing, but how much is he going to be playing? He's very injury prone, it seems. But when he's on the field, he's been great.
Yeah, he had 2 touchdowns last week, 15 targets. So every week he's been healthy, he's seen double-digit targets. It is a tough matchup against Baltimore there, and it can be kind of hard to predict who's going to have the best game there on the Steelers' offense. Devontae Parker's up next, coming in at 26. Temper expectations for Devontae Parker. I think. What'd you say?
I said new quarterback.
Yeah, new quarterback. I think usually with rookies, you're gonna play safe. Tight end throws, check downs to the running backs. I think Tua is gonna be running it. I'm gonna wait a week on Devontae Parker, but he still finds himself in the top 30 because I think he does see a decent target share.
Yeah. So maybe try to find. I like Ayuk better if you can grab him for an upside play if you have Devontae Parker.
Yep.
So Devontae Parker also has groin injury coming in. Looks like he's practicing, but it's still one of those. That injury affects your mobility, and we'll see how this game turns out. I wouldn't want to start him against the Rams, not against Ramsey.
No, next up, another tough matchup, Sterling Shepard. I think he has a decent floor in PPR. He'll get a decent target share. Seen at least 6 catches every game he's played healthy this year. So temper expectations against Tampa Bay, but I think if you're in a PPR, you can still gets you a decent point score.
Yep. And then we got Hollywood Brown next. Very good upside, tough matchup.
He always has high upside. It's just so hard to predict that Ravens offense outside of Mark Andrews and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I don't know. The rest of these guys I feel like are almost interchangeable from 29 to 40.
I will say Jarvis Landry I think has some high upside in PPR formats. Odell Beckham's out. Also, I think Rashard Higgins. Again, if Baker Mayfield can, obviously we don't expect 5 touchdowns again, but if he can play well, I think they can definitely outperform that. I'd like to, T. Higgins and AJ Green. AJ Green has gotten it clicking with Joe Burrow there. Has seen,
At least what?
Yeah, I mean they're looking his way. He's seen double-digit targets 2 games in a row now.
I think AJ Green continues to move up.
I do as well. Again, double-digit targets 2 weeks in a row. 8 catches and then 7 catches. Played 87% of the snaps last week. That is the highest snap share he's had. And Tennessee Titans are definitely a team that you can put up points against.
Yeah.
Also, was on the waiver wire. Talked about him. Nelson Aguilar, I think, could definitely outperform that 37. We're high on Derek Carr there. We're really high on Darren Waller. But Nelson Aguilar, really high upside play. He had 9 targets last week, which is a season high. Gets the deep ball, and they gave him a red zone target, which was big last week.
Agreed. He's I haven't seen any big drops yet, and these big plays from Aguilar. It's always
Yeah,
big plays.
and they like that in the John Gruden offense. Henry Ruggs, speedster on the other side. Uh, that Raiders offense, they have some nice pieces there. So next, Corey Davis, Darius Slayton, Hunter Renfro. I'm really not wanting to start any of those guys.
No.
Juju down at 33. He had a decent game. He's talented. He could always have a decent game, but if Deontay Johnson is getting double-digit targets, I'm not. Juju Smith was a sell target we had a couple weeks ago. If you check that video out.
Yep. Then we got Cole Beasley. He's got a really safe floor, just a slot receiver.
Yeah,
John Brown coming back, so maybe he takes away a few
but
targets.
yeah,
But
honestly, I think he's the safest play if you're in a deep league and you need a waiver. If there's some receivers that are out on bye, and I think in a PPR format, Cole Beasley is a safe play.
yeah, he'll get you around 10 points if you need 10.
Yeah, in any PPR format. So that's going to wrap it up for the wide receivers. Next up, we're going to get to the tight ends. And pretty much as always, every single week, number 1 and 2 is going to be George Kittle, Travis Kelce. Not really much to say there. They're absolute monsters. One of those two is going to have a huge game. And this is pretty much it for the tight end. When healthy, this is going to be the top 5. The only ones that are going to be switching are going to be 1 and 2.
Yeah, and then you don't have to really in deep talk about the tight ends. Here's the list for you. Rob Gronkowski, this is the highest he's been so far. Looks like him and Brady are getting things clicking.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot of targets on there. Week 9 looks like we'd see Mike Evans, Scotty Miller, Gronkowski, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin out there. So it's a lot of it's a lot of weapons, and there's only one football there to go around. But he's played high snap count. He's had 8 targets now, 2 weeks in a row, touchdown 2 weeks in a row. And if you're getting 8 targets out of a tight end, that is definitely very fantasy relevant.
Yeah, especially those red zone targets. He's had multiple red zone targets in the last couple games, and that is crucial for a tight end position, I think.
Yep.
And then we also have Hayden Hurst is next. He's got a pretty safe floor. He's had over 50 yards in a lot of games, and I'm starting him. I don't have anyone else better, so that's what I'm rolling with.
Yeah, Noah Fant really quick. I definitely think he had a tough game last week. Only 3 catches for 38 yards. Did have 7 targets though.
New England has shut down tight ends so far, so it's
that
tough.
was Kansas City.
Oh, Kansas.
Where he got shut down last week, and that was his first game back coming off of injuries. But I think Noah Fant has really high upside. Hopefully Drew Lock can start to play a little bit better. But I think Noah Fant definitely has high upside against the Chargers there.
Yeah, he's really high upside just because of the amount of targets he gets.
Let's see. Next up, Mike Gesicki. Again, we talked about Tua and that offense. We think it's going to bump up, or I don't know about bump up, but I think it's going to be better for Myles Gaskin and Mike Gesicki. I think he's a really safe floor. I think Tua's going to be looking his way. He's a good target for him.
Yeah, Mike Gesicki had a really good week 2, and other than that, it hasn't been much. I wouldn't have much faith in him from his recent performances, but with Tua, I think it does improve. I think he's at least going to be looked at more than with Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. Then we got Jared Cook coming in at number 11. Looks like he's always has touchdown upside, but he's had now a touchdown. He had a touchdown week 5 and week 7. It's a tough matchup.
We got a question here. I have Russ, Devontae, Lockett, Amari, Jason, Chubb, Edmonds. Just traded Amari and T. Higgins for Jalen. Good trade, man.
Yeah, we really like that. We've talked about Amari Cooper. We talked about trading him. Um, let's see. Chris Carson, Nick Chubb. Yeah, you definitely are dealing with some injuries there in the running back position. And
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson has higher upside, definitely week in, week out, and we might start to see him having a safer floor than Amari Cooper. But again, if you have Tyler Lockett and Devontae Adams, I would much rather have the upside play at flex in Justin Jefferson than Amari Cooper.
And then, yeah.
And you have
And
James Conner now at running back.
you'd really only need Amari Cooper if Devontae misses more time. And yeah, I think James Conner is going to be solid play for the rest of the year. So
Yeah,
great
top
trade.
12 running back going forward, and you're gonna have you're gonna have a tough time, honestly, because you're gonna probably have to bench Justin Jefferson. Do I trade away Dalvin Cook for Zeke and Jonathan Taylor? Oof. Who?
What do you
Can you
say?
give us your starting lineup? Because I'd think about it if I don't have any depth at running back. If I have depth at running back, I'm keeping Cook.
Yeah.
So I guess that really depends on your lineup, Carson. But yeah, to Udai Vindra, that is a great trade. Trading away Amari Cooper and T. Higgins for James Conner. You probably picked T. Higgins off the waiver wire. And there's definitely a chance that James Conner was drafted higher than Amari Cooper. So I definitely think you're the clear winner of that. And as far as you, Carson Rowlett, I'd like to hear your starting lineup because it's definitely situational on who your other running backs are. If you have no RB2, I'd probably do that trade.
Agreed. I think Zeke has better value, or as his value is going down. Melvin Gordon, Swift, Gibson, Edmonds.
How about receivers? Like, what's your lineup looking like? Man, that's not a bad trade. I think that's a fair trade. I personally,
I think I'd rather roll out Cook and Swift or Cook and Gordon
yeah,
than Zeke and Taylor.
me too.
But that's just me.
I agree with you. I think Dalvin Cook is going to be a top 3 play every single week. Zeke, I mean, let's be real about the Cowboys. If you're looking towards the playoffs, is Zeke going to be playing weeks 15 and 16 and 17? We're not sure about that. They're in tank mode. Not that I think rest of season, Dalvin Cook's a top 3 running back, and Zeke and Taylor are both low end RB1s, high end RB2s.
Is pretty tough matchups coming up as well. Zeke has to go at Philly and then play Pittsburgh, number 1 rushing defense. He has to play Washington football team again, number 4, at Baltimore, number 6, and then versus San Francisco, number 2. So some tough matchups for Zeke as well.
Yeah, QBs are Josh Allen and Tannehill. Wide receivers are Julio, Allen Robinson and Diggs, Tyler Boyd, Deontay Johnson. Tight end is Kelsey. Keep Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I would like Dalvin Cook more on that team than Zeke and Taylor.
Because honestly, Melvin Gordon's a safe floor at RB2. Chase Edmonds, I honestly, if I were you, obviously the Cardinals aren't a bye. Week 9, I'd look to start Chase Edmonds though. So I think you're definitely set. You're gonna have to make decisions. You've really been wanting Taylor. I know, dude. I know Jonathan Taylor's good, but Dalvin Cook is so good. I mean, he is the Vikings offense. I mean, and again, I will disclaimer notice, we are both Vikings fans, but again, Dalvin Cook, how can you argue that? It's
I would if someone offered me Dalvin Cook for Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor, I would not do it. So I don't know. Are you offering the trade? Are you?
He said, "Do
or
I
is-
trade away Cook for Zeke and Taylor?" Swift and Edmonds for Taylor, but he won't accept. Yeah, no. I
Yeah.
honestly, if I were you, I would look to maybe trade. I don't know about your league. I would look to trade away Josh Allen or Ryan. I would look to trade away Josh Allen. I would look to trade away.
It's hard to trade quarterback.
I would. It's hard to trade quarterbacks. I would, if I were you, I would trade a wide receiver and a running back to upgrade at running back. So I would say I would pair.
I play Robinson.
I'd pair Allen Robinson and Melvin Gordon for Jonathan Taylor, maybe, since you have Tyler
Yeah.
Boyd, or maybe Tyler Boyd and Melvin Gordon for Jonathan Taylor. I think would be a more realistic trade. Because let's be realistic, you have Tyler Boyd, Marquise Brown, and Deontay Johnson, and you're going to be starting Julio, Allen Robinson, and Diggs every week. And I'd be fine switching out one of your 3 wide receivers with Tyler Boyd, if that means you can trade them and upgrade at RB2, still keeping. He won't accept any wide receivers. He said only RBs. That's tough.
And
'Cause, I mean,
yeah.
honestly, I know you probably want Jonathan Taylor, but realistically, if you send him a trade like Melvin Gordon and Tyler Boyd, or Melvin Gordon and Allen Robinson, and he doesn't accept that, that's a really good trade, really fair trade. And sometimes you just have to move on, because you just have to read your league, and sometimes league owners just like won't make trades, and aren't going to be fair.
Yeah, and I agree. And I like Cook over Zeke and I don't know, Taylor. I do like Taylor.
But the volume and the efficiency and the passing work is just all there for Dalvin Cook.
It's true. The only thing I would be worried about is injuries.
Yeah.
So do it if you really want Taylor. I say go for it if you want Taylor.
It's not a bad. Let me say, it's not a bad trade. That's a fair offer.
Fair. Very
it's a
fair
really
trade.
fair trade.
Yeah, I agree.
Personally, though, if I got,
Thanks for the questions, Carson. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we do really appreciate it. Again, I would shop around running backs in your league. I would pair Melvin Gordon and or DeAndre Swift plus one of your premier receivers. Like, honestly, if I were you, I would trade Melvin Gordon and Julio Jones and try and get a really good RB2.
Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, or James Conner, something like that maybe. Because again, if you're starting Allen Robinson and Diggs and Tyler Boyd is your WR3, you're still stacked.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, trades are all situational. Let's see, we're talking about tight ends though.
We're pretty much done talking about tight ends.
Yeah, we'll say Harrison Bryant, I think, could have some decent upside.
Agreed. Same with Richard Rodgers. He's looks to be getting the start. Goddard practice, but I don't expect him to play. I think they'll sit him and wait to roll him out till after the bye week.
Yeah, so that's gonna wrap it up for the tight end ranks.
Evan Ingram likes to drop the ball.
Yeah,
all right.
Tough matchup against Tampa Bay there. All right, let's get to the kicker and defense ranks. Number 1 defense is going to be the Bucs. We talked about Daniel Jones there and how turnover prone he is.
Yeah.
Chiefs coming in at number 2. Obviously, they had a monster game last week. The Giants there.
Yeah, NYG, NYJ, those matchups are usually in the top 5 for defenses.
Yeah, Rams at Miami. We don't know what to expect from Tua. Rams have a good defense there. They shut out the Chicago, or they didn't shut them out, but they shut down pretty much the Chicago Bears offense. And again, we don't know what to expect. Eagles versus Dallas. Whoever's under center at Dallas, we are not a fan of.
Yeah.
Let's see. Chargers at Denver. Denver's a turnover machine.
Yep, it's a good streaming option this week. Chargers.
Yeah.
I'm streaming the Packers against Minnesota.
Yep.
Kirk Cousins
We talked about
also.
them in our show, in our preview show of streamer defenses. Colts, Steelers, and Ravens are kind of always, regardless of matchup, are going to find themselves in the top 10 just based on talent.
Yeah, agreed.
I would say in the bottom, like Bears could definitely put up a big game against Drew Brees. They play at home. If there's, check the weather. If there's any inclement weather, if it's chilly there, Drew Brees is not a fan of that and doesn't like that.
Yeah, I think in the bottom, I think all these teams are safe plays. I don't think any team is going to hurt you. The highest upside I like would probably be, I think I like for upside, I'd play the Titans.
Titans have upside, yeah. Again, Packers and Chargers though, their ownership was super low going into the week. We hope you added them on the waivers. If there's a chance they could still be out there, I'd go out and try and get them if they are.
Yeah, I agree. Packers are on. Let's see how they're looking right now. Packers are owned in 66%. So
probably took a big jump this week.
Oh yeah, definitely took a big jump. Chargers also took a jump, but still only rostered in half of the leagues. So go look out for them.
Yep. Let's see. Is there anything else you'd like to cover then? We have our kicker rankings to the right. You can check that out. The link below is the rank to the full rankings. These are our consensus rankings. If you'd like to check out the full rankings where you can see or the nitty gritty of that, and you can check that out, link below, as well as the link to our Spotify show. We talk about all sports across the plane. We have 2 more hosts on that. We do those. Those are usually uploaded every Tuesday. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter. That's also at Across the Plane. Like we always say, guys, leave us a comment. We appreciate those who stopped by and hung out and hit us in the chat. We do always appreciate that. We love to give our input and throw that around.
Yeah, all of that. Appreciate you watching, and hit that subscribe button. Get notified when we go live or when we post a video. And peace.
All right, we'll see you next week, guys. We hope you get a win. And as always, be prepared for the unpredictable.
Absolutely.